My husband spent 6 years calling my company a spreadsheet hobby. Then his own lawyer asked the judge for a recess. I'm 31, and I'm sitting in family court in Charlotte, North Carolina, watching my husband smile while he signs papers to end our marriage. He always smiled when he thought he had already won. He was smiling that morning because he thought I was scared. He thought I was still the woman he married 6 years earlier. The woman from a small town. The woman who wore department store dresses to his family dinners and apologized for taking up space around people with old money and loud opinions. He thought I had a cute little bookkeeping project, a younger brother I could not afford, and nowhere to go once his lawyers were done with me. In 10 minutes, the judge was going to read the financial disclosures my attorney had put in front of her. My husband had no idea what was in them. To understand why he was so relaxed, you have to go back. I grew up outside Asheville. My parents worked hard. My dad repaired air conditioners until his knees gave out. My mom worked at the county library. We did not have extra money, but we had rules. Pay what you owe. Do not spend what you do not have, and never let somebody make you ashamed for working hard. I was good with numbers early. Not genius good. I was not winning national contests or doing calculus for fun. I just liked making things fit. I liked looking at a mess and finding the one number that explained all the others. When I was 14, 2 customers stopped paying my dad's invoices. I made a notebook with columns for parts, labor, gas, bills, and money still owed. The notebook did not save his business. My dad worked himself sick that summer, but he used my little system every day after that. Years later, he told me it was the first time he knew I would build a life bigger than our town. I went to college on grants, scholarships, and a part-time job at a small accounting office. I studied finance because I wanted to help working people understand money without making them feel stupid for asking questions. I met my husband during my senior year. He was a law student in a Navy coat that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I was studying for a corporate finance exam at a coffee shop near campus. He sat beside me, looked at my notes, and said, "You've got the kind of mind people spend a lot of money trying to hire." At the time, I thought it was charming. Now I know it was the whole marriage in one sentence. He always complimented me from above. His family lived in Charlotte. His father was a partner at a law firm. His mother knew every charity board, every club, and every person she considered important. My husband had never worried about a card getting declined at the grocery store. He had never watched a parent put $5 of gas in a car and promise the rest would come Friday. At first, he made me feel like I belonged in his world. Then came the little corrections. The first one happened before dinner with 2 of his friends. I was wearing a green dress I had bought on sale for graduation. He looked at me for 1 second too long. "You look pretty," he said. "Maybe save that one for something more casual." I asked what was wrong with it. "Nothing," he said quickly. "I just want you to be comfortable. They can be particular." I changed. That became the whole marriage. My accent got noticeable when I was nervous. My college friends were sweet but not ambitious. My parents were good people who did not understand professional life. My work at a small accounting firm was respectable, but not really a career. Every insult came with an explanation. Every explanation came with a smile. 18 months after we met, he proposed on a hotel balcony in Charleston. The ring was beautiful. There was champagne. I said yes because I thought being chosen by him meant I had finally become enough. The wedding cost more than my parents' house. His mother criticized the guest list, flowers, menu, and venue. At one point, she looked at a place card and said, "At least it's tasteful." I was afraid this might turn into something rustic. She said rustic like it was a medical condition. My husband heard her. Later, he squeezed my hand and said, "Don't take it personally." I heard that sentence a few hundred more times over the next 6 years. We moved into the townhouse he had bought before the wedding. White walls, glass tables, almost no photographs. I bought plants, framed pictures from our honeymoon, and put a blue blanket over the couch. He took it off the next day. "Makes the room look crowded," he said. He said everything gently. That was the problem. If he had yelled, I might have understood sooner. Instead, he made every change sound so reasonable that I stopped trusting my own taste. I kept working. I went from assistant to junior analyst to a team handling local business accounts. I loved those clients. They knew every detail of their products and no idea why money kept disappearing before payroll. I built forecasts. I found costs nobody was watching. I helped people see that their business could be something other than a source of panic. My husband called it my little job. He said it in front of friends. "She gets so excited about spreadsheets," he would say. People laughed politely. I laughed too. When my firm offered me training in business consulting, I came home excited. It meant more hours, more clients, and a real path forward. My husband barely looked up from his phone. Is the raise really worth losing every evening to people who cannot manage their own companies? I told him it was not about the raise. He sighed. "I know you like feeling useful. But we're married now. You don't have to prove you can survive on your own." That sentence sat in my chest for years. It sounded like care. What he meant was, do not turn into somebody I cannot steer. I explained it away for a long time. I told myself he was under pressure. I told myself he grew up in a family that measured love by what it could provide. I told myself his controlling side came from fear, not contempt. There was enough truth in those excuses to keep me confused. Because he could be generous when it made him look good. When my dad got sick, he paid for a hotel room near the hospital. When my mother died, he made phone calls I could not make. He stood beside me at the funeral and held my hand while people told me they were sorry. That is why leaving was never simple. People assume a bad marriage is bad every minute. Mine was not. It had good weekends, inside jokes, and pictures where we looked happy. Good moments do not erase a pattern, though. My parents died 11 months apart. My father had a heart attack at work. My mother got sick after losing him and never really recovered. My little brother was 17 when she died, so I became the person he called about school forms, car insurance, and whether frozen pizza could technically expire. Our mom had opened a college account for him years earlier. There was not enough to cover everything, but there was enough to get him through community college without burying him in loans. I was listed as successor owner. I treated that account like something sacred. My husband was nice to my brother at first. He bought him a used laptop and took him to a Hornets game. Then my brother started staying with us on school breaks. He leaves dishes in the sink, my husband said. He's always in the kitchen. He needs to learn to stand on his own 2 feet. My brother was barely 18. I defended him, but quietly. I did not want to fight. I was still trying to keep peace in a house that never felt like it belonged to me. The money problems got worse after that. We had a joint account for household expenses, and my husband went through it like he was building a case. He questioned professional books, a new laptop, groceries when my brother stayed with us. Meanwhile, he bought watches, golf equipment, expensive wine, and a country club membership. When I pointed out the difference, he said, "My purchases are investments in relationships. Yours are expenses." That was the week I opened my own bank account, not because I was planning a divorce. Not yet. I did it because I needed one thing in my life that did not require his approval. I moved a small part of every paycheck into it. I paid for courses, certifications, and software. At night, I started helping friends of friends with their business numbers. A restaurant owner who could not figure out why sales were rising while profit disappeared. A landscaper who needed a real way to track seasonal labor. A mobile pet groomer who needed help applying for a line of credit. I barely charged anything at first because I was scared to ask for money. People kept referring me anyway. My first big client owned 3 neighborhood restaurants. I found a pricing mistake in a supplier contract that was costing her thousands every month. I built cash flow reports and helped her renegotiate payment terms. 3 months later, she called me crying in the good way. "We made payroll early this month," she said. Early? I have never made payroll early in my life. That was when I knew I could build something of my own. I registered my consulting company. I made a simple website. I rented a mailbox at a shipping store. I worked in the guest room after my husband went to sleep, or on the nights he said he had client dinners. I did not think of it as lying. I thought of it as keeping one thing somewhere he could not reach and take apart. For almost a year, he barely noticed. He liked that I seemed more confident at parties. He thought I had finally adjusted to his world. He did not know my confidence was coming from clients, not cocktails. Then he got promoted. And then there was Brooke. She worked in business development. She dressed perfectly. She had the kind of smile that made a room revolve around her. The first time I met her, she hugged my husband 1 second too long and said, "There he is. My work husband." Everybody laughed. I smiled because what else do you do? After that, she was everywhere, sitting beside him at client dinners, tagging him in photos from office events, texting late at night about things that were supposedly urgent, then adding heart emojis like that made it professional. I told myself I was being insecure. My husband helped me believe it. "Brooke is friendly with everyone," he said. "You're reading too much into it." One morning, I made him a turkey sandwich with the spicy mustard he liked. He came home with the lunch bag still full. "You didn't eat?" I asked. Brooke brought food from a new place downtown. I didn't want to be rude. I looked at the sandwich I had made before sunrise. It was warm from sitting in his car all day. It was never about food. At a company fundraiser, Brooke walked over while my husband was talking to a client. "You must be so busy with your little business now," she said. She used the exact tone he used. I asked how she knew about my business. She looked across the room at my husband and said, "He talks about everything." He did not look embarrassed when he heard that. He looked pleased. On the drive home, I asked why he told her about my clients. "Because she's my friend," he said. "You talk to your clients about me, don't you?" "No," I said. "I talk to them about my work," he laughed. "You're turning Brooke into a villain because you do not like feeling left out." That night, I stopped checking his phone. I stopped looking for one obvious thing that would make leaving easy. I started collecting facts instead. Dates, charges, plans that changed at the last second, the gap between what he said and what the records said. I knew numbers did not care how convincing somebody sounded. They kept the record anyway. Then came the dinner that changed everything. My husband's father had money tied up in a stalled luxury condo project. Nobody in that family was poor. They just hated looking inconvenienced. At Sunday dinner, his mother asked my brother about school. He had been accepted into an information systems program at Central Piedmont. He was proud of himself. I was proud of him. Then she asked about his college account. "That money is just sitting there," she said. "I'm sure he would not mind helping family for a few months if there is a good return." I stared at her. My husband said it would be short-term. His father said my brother did not need all the money right away because he was starting at community college. My brother looked at me with that face he made when he was trying to be easy to manage. No, I said. The table went quiet. That account is for his education, I continued. It is not an investment pool. It is not a family favor. It is his future. My mother-in-law smiled tightly. We are not trying to take anything from him. It sounded like a line she had practiced in the car. My husband waited until we were driving home to get angry. You made my parents look selfish. They asked for money that belongs to my brother. They asked for a loan. They asked a 19-year-old to gamble the only money our parents left him so your father could fix a problem he created. He gripped the wheel. You always have to make everything about your family. My family was 2 people at that point. That night, I printed the college account statements and put them in a folder with my business records. I did not know exactly why. I only knew I did not want anything important to be easy for him to reach. A month later, I got a call from a number I did not recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail. I am glad I did not. The man on the phone introduced himself as Brooke's husband. His voice was calm in a way that scared me immediately. I'm sorry to call you at work, he said, but I have evidence that Brooke and your husband are involved. My hands went numb, he said. I wish you did not have to hear this from me. The next morning, I met him at a coffee shop across town. He had a folder, a tablet, and the exhausted face of someone who had not slept right in weeks. He showed me screenshots first, then restaurant receipts, then hotel confirmations from work trips that both of them had described as separate. The proof was bad. The messages were worse. They called my company a spreadsheet hobby. They called me too cautious to leave. My husband wrote, once the divorce starts, she'll panic. She has no real leverage. Brooke replied, she'll probably cry and go back to saving receipts in a shoebox. I read that message 3 times. I did not cry. Something inside me just went still. Brooke's husband told me he had spoken to a lawyer before contacting me. He said he was not calling because he wanted revenge. He was calling because I deserved to know before the 2 of them got to decide what the story would be. I thanked him. Then I sat in my car, outside that coffee shop for 20 minutes without starting it. I thought about every time my husband told me I was too sensitive. Every time I apologized for asking a normal question. Every time I worked late so I would not inconvenience him. And I thought about my little brother at that dinner table, ready to hand over his future so nobody else would feel uncomfortable. That afternoon, I called a divorce attorney. She did not promise me a dramatic courtroom moment. She did not tell me what I wanted to hear. She asked what documents I had, whether I felt safe at home, whether my husband had access to my accounts, and whether I had made any decisions out of fear. That last question cracked something open. I told her I was tired of making decisions out of fear. You do not have to decide the future of your marriage on one phone call, she said. You need to decide what you need to know before you do anything permanent. That advice mattered more than she probably realized. For 2 days, I did not say a word to my husband. I went to work. I answered client emails. I drove my brother to class because his car was in the shop. I made dinner in the townhouse and watched my husband act completely normal across the table. He asked why I was quiet. I'm tired, I said. He reached for my hand. I pulled it back before I could stop myself. His eyes narrowed for exactly 1 second. Then he smiled. You've been under a lot of pressure lately, he said. I wanted to ask if Brooke knew how much pressure I was under. I wanted to ask if he remembered writing that I had no leverage. Instead, I said, I'll be fine. That night, I sat in the guest room with my laptop and opened the first version of my company website. It was rough. The font was too small. The logo was something I made on a free design site at 11 at night. My service list said affordable help for people who feel lost around money. I remembered being terrified to publish it. Then I thought about the 2 of them laughing at it. I did not feel fired up. I felt sad for the woman, who believed making herself smaller would keep her safe. Making myself small had not protected me. Preparing was going to. The next morning, I called Brooke's husband and asked if he had told anyone else. He said no. We agreed to keep things practical. He sent my attorney only the material his own lawyer approved. I sent him nothing that was not mine to send. There was no secret friendship. No late-night calls. We were 2 strangers standing on opposite sides of the same wreck, trying not to make each other's lives worse. For the next few weeks, I lived 2 lives. At home, I acted like I was thinking about marriage counseling. My husband brought flowers. He suggested a weekend at the coast. He told his parents I had been emotional lately, but he was doing his best. At the office, I built a file, company registration, client agreements, invoices, tax filings, software licenses. Proof that every dollar used to start my company came from my income, my own account, or company revenue. My attorney told me to document everything, disclose exactly what the law required, and stop making assumptions based on things I read online at 2 in the morning. I listened to her. I also pulled our joint account history. For years, my husband expected me to handle household paperwork. He thought he was assigning me a boring wife chore. He did not realize he was handing me the record. The country club charges. The expensive dinners on nights he said he was at the office. Transfers into an account he had never mentioned. Payments connected to Brooke's apartment during weeks her husband was traveling. My husband spent 6 years convinced I was not sophisticated enough to understand money. He forgot money was the one language I never stopped listening to. Meanwhile, my business kept growing. The restaurant owner introduced me to a startup founder. The founder hired me for a small project. I found a flaw in how her company measured customer retention, and the fix showed her which stores were bleeding money before the loss appeared anywhere else. After her board meeting, she called me. "You're charging way too little," she said. I laughed because I thought she was being nice. She was not. She told me to stop pricing myself like I was asking people for a favor. She said good clients respected clear work, clear boundaries, and clear fees. It took me months to believe her, but I raised my rates. I hired a part-time analyst. I leased a small office near uptown. I built a simple planning platform for clients, nothing fancy, just a tool that made payroll and cash flow forecasts readable to a human being. My husband did not ask many questions. He assumed the office was a phase. When I told him I hired help, he said, "That's cute." Cute, that word did a lot of work over the next few months. Then I almost ruined everything. I had been careful for weeks. But one night, I printed documents for my attorney, got distracted, and left them in the paper tray at home. My husband was waiting when I walked in. He held the papers in one hand. "What is this?" he asked. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it. I told him I had been looking into our options because things had been hard. His calm lawyer face disappeared. He stepped close enough that I could smell whiskey. "You think you can take my money," he said. "You think a few spreadsheets are going to protect you from me?" Everything in me wanted to step back. I did not. "I'm not trying to take anything," I said. "I'm trying to understand my rights." He laughed once. It was not a nice sound. "You have rights because of me. You have this house because of me. You have a life in this city because of me." For 6 years, that would have made me feel 2 inches tall. That night, it made me feel clear. "I had a life before you," I said. "And I'll have one after you." He stared at me like I had switched languages. Then he grabbed his keys and left for a hotel. In the morning, he texted, "I need space." What he did not know was that I had already lined up a short-term apartment, moved copies of important documents out of the house, and asked my brother to stay with a friend until things settled. I did not change the locks. I did not post anything online. I followed my attorney's instructions exactly. I just stopped waiting for my husband to decide what happened next. 2 days later, Brooke's husband told her he knew. After that, everything moved fast. Brooke called my husband called me. He said Brooke's husband was unstable and jealous. He said Brooke made a mistake, but it was nothing serious. He said I should not let another couple's problems destroy our marriage. I asked him one question. "Did you tell Brooke I would panic in a divorce because I have no leverage?" There was silence. Then he said, "You're invading my privacy." That was his answer. That was the whole answer. I filed for separation the next morning. I did it from my attorney's office with a cup of terrible coffee in my hand. There was no music, no dramatic speech. No one burst through the door to stop me. My attorney slid the papers across the desk and pointed to each place I needed to sign. "This starts the process," she said. "It does not decide every outcome today." My hand hovered over the first line. For 1 second, I saw the hotel balcony in Charleston. I saw the ring. I saw his mother adjusting a flower arrangement at our wedding because she did not trust anyone else to get it right. I saw my husband holding my hand at my mother's funeral. Then I saw the messages on Brooke's husband's tablet. "She'll panic. She has no real leverage." I signed. My attorney did not congratulate me. She simply gathered the paperwork and said, "Okay, now we protect the facts." That phrase became my anchor. Protect the facts. Not the image of my marriage. Not my husband's reputation. Not the version of me that his family liked best because she was easy to manage. The facts. That afternoon, I went back to the townhouse while he was at work. My attorney had told me what I could take and what I needed to leave alone. Personal documents, clothing, my work equipment, my business files, my mother's jewelry, the things that were clearly mine. I brought my brother and one of my employees to help. My brother kept asking if I was okay. "I'm fine," I said the first time. The second time I said, "I don't know." The third time I said, "I will be." That felt more honest. We packed my clothes from the closet. We packed my books. We packed the plants he always forgot to water. I took the framed honeymoon pictures off the walls and put them face down in a box because I could not decide whether I wanted to keep them or throw them away. The blue blanket went in last. It should not have mattered. It was a cheap blanket from a home store. But I remembered how small he made me feel over that blanket. I remembered taking it off the couch myself after he complained because I did not want to be difficult. When I folded it into the box, I cried for the first time, not because I wanted him back, because I finally understood how many tiny pieces of myself I had given away to avoid an argument. We were almost finished when my husband came home early. I heard the garage door before I saw him. My brother froze in the living room. One of my employees was holding a box of files. I stood in the hallway with a stack of clothes in my arms. My husband walked in and looked around. For a few seconds, he did not speak. Then he said, "What are you doing?" "I'm moving out. You can't just take things." My attorney gave me a list. "I am following it." His eyes moved to my brother. "You brought him into this." My brother stiffened. "He is my family," I said. "This is between us." "You involved him when you asked for his college money." My husband took a step closer. I said I was sorry about that. "No, you said your parents were trying to help." "You twist everything." For years, that sentence would have sent me searching through my own memory. Did I twist it? Did I make it worse? Did I hear him wrong? That day, I looked at the folder of account statements on the table. "No," I said. "I keep records." His face changed. He glanced at my employee, then at my brother, and lowered his voice. Can we talk alone? I almost said yes. Old habits are powerful. Then I remembered what my attorney told me that morning. Protect the facts. Anything you need to say can go through my attorney, I told him. He stared at me. You're really doing this, over some texts, over years. The text just made it impossible to keep lying to myself. He laughed without humor. Rook made a mistake. I made a mistake. You are throwing away a marriage because you want to feel powerful. I looked at him for a long moment. You spent 6 years telling me I did not have power. That is not the same thing. Then I picked up the last box and walked past him. He did not stop me. The first night in the apartment, I slept on an air mattress because the furniture had not arrived yet. My brother ordered pizza. My employee left a bag of paper plates and plastic forks on the counter. We ate sitting on the floor with boxes all around us. It was not glamorous. It was the safest I had felt in years. My husband called 14 times that night. I did not answer. The next morning, he sent a message saying he was sorry. Then another saying I was being cruel. Then another saying Brooke's husband was manipulating both of us. Then another saying he had told his parents everything and they were heartbroken. I forwarded every message to my attorney. I did not reply. 3 days later, he appeared outside my office. My receptionist called and said, "Your husband is here. He says he just wants 5 minutes." My stomach dropped. Part of me still wanted to go downstairs. Part of me still wanted him to say the one perfect thing that would make all of this feel less painful. Then I looked through the glass wall of my office at the 2 employees working nearby. One was preparing a payroll forecast. The other was on the phone with a client who sounded relieved just to have someone explain her numbers clearly. I had built this place in secret because I believed he would laugh at it. I was not going to let him walk in and make it smaller. I told my receptionist to say I was unavailable and that all communication needed to go through my attorney. He left a card with a handwritten note. "I love you. I don't know how to fix this if you won't talk to me." I kept the card for 1 day. Then I put it in the same box as the wedding photos. Not because I wanted to save it. Because I wanted proof that love had not been the problem. Love was easy for him to say. Respect was the part he could never manage. My husband reacted exactly the way my attorney said he would. He did not apologize. He went to work on the story. Inside a week, mutual friends heard that I was obsessed with my job, that I had gotten cold, that I was using my brother against him, and that I had probably been planning my exit for years. His mother called to tell me she was disappointed. "We welcomed you into this family," she said. "Do not make this uglier than it has to be." I wanted to tell her that her family never welcomed me. They tolerated me because her son picked me. Those were 2 different things. Instead, I said, "Please direct any future questions to my attorney," and hung up. His first settlement offer arrived a week later. It was a lump sum that sounded impressive if you did not understand assets. In exchange, I would waive claims on the townhouse, joint investments, and several accounts he had never fully described. It valued my company as a small side project worth almost nothing. My attorney read it, then looked at me. "He really does not know what you built," she said. "No," I said. "He never wanted to." Discovery was slow and ugly. His attorney sat on paperwork they called certain accounts family property. They called his late nights work obligations. They shrugged off money he spent while cheating. But the records existed. Some came from our joint account. Some came from Brooke's husband. And many came from my husband's own filings, which did not line up nearly as well as he thought. The more pressure he felt, the more mistakes he made. He called an investment account separate property, then submitted statements showing deposits from our joint income. He said Brooke's rent payments were client expenses, then produced an email that placed him in another state that same day. He said I always knew about his private account, then admitted he had never given me access. My attorney did not celebrate any of it. She just organized it. That was why I trusted her. Somewhere in the middle of all this, I moved into my apartment. It was smaller than the townhouse, and I loved it the second I walked in. Warm gray walls, windows facing a row of old trees. I bought plants without asking anyone whether they matched the furniture. My brother helped me carry boxes up 3 flights of stairs. One night, he looked around and said, "This feels more like home than that other place ever did." I had to turn away so he would not see my face. That spring, my company signed its biggest contract. A regional grocery group hired us to rebuild how they forecast payroll, seasonal inventory, and vendor payments across 40 stores. 3 years earlier, I would have been too scared to take the meeting. Now I had 2 employees who trusted me, clients who referred me, and a business that had grown because I kept showing up when nobody was watching. My husband heard about the contract at a networking event. He called that night, and his voice was different, softer. "I heard your company is doing really well," he said. "It is. I always knew you had potential." I closed my eyes. That was almost the first thing he had ever said to me. Potential is not something you hand somebody, I told him. He did not answer. The night before the final hearing, I could not sleep. I sat on the floor with a cup of tea and looked at boxes I had not unpacked, wedding photos, letters my mother saved, and the blue blanket I once put over a couch in a house where it made the room look crowded. I pulled it around my shoulders. It was soft, it was warm, it was mine. The next morning, I put on a dark blue suit and the small gold earrings my mother gave me when I graduated. Before I left, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror for a long time. I did not look like the woman in my wedding photos. Back then, I was always checking whether I looked polished enough. Grateful enough, quiet enough. I had spent years trying to become the kind of wife my husband could show off without worrying I might say the wrong thing. That morning I looked tired. I looked nervous. I looked like someone who had spent months carrying documents, deadlines, client calls, family pain, and a marriage falling apart. But I also looked like myself. My phone buzzed with a message from my attorney. Parking is crowded. Meet me by the courthouse entrance. We have everything we need. I read that last sentence twice. We have everything we need. For so long, I thought I needed my husband's approval. His house, his name, his family, his version of success. What I actually needed was a safe place, the truth, and enough faith in myself to stop asking permission. Nothing flashy, nothing borrowed. My husband was outside the courthouse when I arrived. Perfect suit, perfect hair, almost perfect confidence. Brooke was not with him. I later learned that her husband filed for divorce and that she left my husband's firm after an internal review of travel expenses and client billing raised questions nobody could answer. I did not feel good about her life falling apart. I just did not feel responsible for catching it. My husband smiled when he saw me. "You look nervous," he said. I was nervous. I did not give him that. "I'm ready," I said. Inside the courtroom, his attorney explained how much my husband had supported me during our marriage. They called my company a small consulting practice. They suggested I benefited from his professional network, his home, and his financial stability. My husband testified that he wanted a fair resolution. He said he had always encouraged my ambitions, even when they took time away from our marriage. I sat there and wondered how many times he practiced that version of himself in the mirror. Then my attorney stood up. She started with his financial disclosures, the undisclosed account, the valuations that did not match, the payments connected to Brooke, the transfers described one way in a letter and another way in sworn paperwork. My husband's smile started disappearing, not all at once, slowly. That made it better, honestly. His attorney asked for a recess after the second hidden account came up. The judge denied it. "Your client had ample opportunity to disclose his assets accurately," she said. "We will continue." Then my attorney turned to my business. She did not call it a miracle. She did not make it sound dramatic. She put the truth on the table. Company registration documents, tax returns, client contracts, software licenses, revenue reports, an independent valuation. My company was not a hobby. It was a real business with employees, recurring clients, its own planning tools, and a value that had grown for years while my husband thought I was playing with spreadsheets in the guest room. The judge read the figures. My husband looked over at me for the first time all day like he had never met me. The valuation was $1.8 million. There were also investment accounts built from company income, a small commercial property my business had purchased, and retained earnings he never knew existed. He whispered something to his attorney. His attorney shook his head. Then my attorney brought up the prenup. My husband had insisted on one before the wedding. His family said it was normal, responsible, a way to protect future business interests. I signed it after my own attorney reviewed it, and I remember feeling embarrassed that I did not have much to protect. One clause said that any business created during the marriage without capital, ownership interest, or labor from the other spouse would remain separate property. My husband never put a dollar into my company. He never worked an hour for it. He never took it seriously enough to ask how it was going. The agreement his family wrote to protect men like him was the agreement that protected me. His attorney argued that I used marital time and resources. My attorney answered with paper. Startup money from my income, expenses from my independent account, clients who hired me for my work, office leases, software, employees, contracts, every part of the company existing outside his involvement. The judge asked my husband directly whether he had evidence that he contributed capital or labor to my business. He said nothing. For the first time since I met him, my husband looked small. The judge ruled that my company and its traceable assets were my separate property under the agreement. She also found that his incomplete disclosures and his use of marital funds would affect how the rest of our property was divided. The townhouse would be sold. The proceeds would be divided in a way that favored me, because of his conduct and the things he left off his forms. The account he tried to hide would be included. The rest would go into the final order. I did not catch every legal word after that. I caught one thing clearly. My work was mine. When court let out, my husband came toward me before my attorney could steer me away. His face was gray. "You planned this," he said. "All these years, you were sitting there waiting to take everything." I looked at him. I thought about the green dress, the blue blanket, the lunch bag in his car, the dinner where he asked my brother to gamble his future, the message where he said I would panic. "No," I said. "I built something while you were busy deciding I couldn't. Those are not the same thing." He looked like he wanted to argue. Then he saw I was done listening. I walked out with my attorney and down the courthouse steps into the afternoon sun. My hands were shaking. My knees felt weak. I was not calm because I won. I was calm because I did not have to pretend to be less than I was anymore. There is a difference. These days, my company works with small businesses in 3 states. My brother is finishing his degree and building websites for local companies on weekends. The restaurant owner still calls me when a supplier makes her angry. The startup founder still calls to tell me I am charging too little. I kept the blue blanket. It is on the couch in my apartment, along with too many plants, photos on the wall, and furniture that does not match anything and does not need to. My husband reached out once after the divorce was final. He said he had been angry because he was hurt. He said he did not understand how much pressure I was under. He said he hoped we could talk someday. I did not answer. Not because I hate him. Because I spent 6 years explaining my worth to a man who only heard it once there was a number attached. Last Friday, my brother came over and we ate pizza on the floor while he showed me a website he built for a barbershop. He asked if I was ever going to unpack the last 2 boxes. I told him probably not. Then he pulled the blue blanket off the couch, put it over his legs, and said, "The room feels fine to me." I looked around my apartment. At the plants. At the pictures. At the work I had built with my own hands. For years, my husband made me feel like I was lucky to be allowed in his life. In the end, he was the one who never understood what he had. My company was never a spreadsheet hobby. It was my way out.